Good afternoon. The governor is allowing me to share some good news with you today, so I have a few pieces to share. First, this morning we marked a major announcement that promises to enhance tourism and entertainment in Kentucky. The governor joined Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher and officials with Kentucky Kingdom and its new owners, Georgia-based Hershon Family Entertainment, to mark the deal. Hershon, the nation's largest family-owned theme attractions and entertainment company, has an impressive history of delivering world-class entertainment experiences to its guests at popular tourism attractions including the Dollywood Parks and Resorts in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and the Newport Aquarium in Northern Kentucky, among others. Every year, Hershon entertains more than 14 million guests at 25 properties in 8 states, and the company soon will expand its business operations in the Commonwealth as the majority partner and operator of Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay. Hershon's vision for the entertainment complex will build upon Kentucky Kingdom's solid reputation while creating an enhanced guest experience that multiple generations of families can enjoy. In the Commonwealth, tourism is an $11.5 billion industry and the third largest sector in Louisville, generating an annual economic impact of $3.5 billion. We welcome Hershon, expanded presence in Kentucky, and look forward to our growing partnership. The second piece of news we'd like to share is today, the University of Kentucky announced its partnership with all of its partners to open a unique new development at the university's Cold Spring Research Campus in Lexington. This $15 million project will provide an entry-level resource for early-stage, high-tech companies looking to locate on the research campus. The new building is known as the Core: Collaboration, Research, and Entrepreneurship. And it's the latest effort to create opportunities for promising new companies and entrepreneurs in our state. The new building, which will include wet lab and workspace, is expected to be completed early next year. As part of the project, Kentucky Technology Incorporated, a subsidiary of the UK Research Foundation, will lease half of the building space, 40,000 square feet, and sublease the space to qualifying high-tech companies, including startups incubated at UK and the other companies planning to relocate to the Commonwealth. The governor wishes to thank UK and all its partners for their efforts to establish this great new venture, which promises a brighter future for innovative Kentucky companies. And finally, the last piece of good news we have is applications are now being taken for 12 conservation officers with the Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. Kentucky's conservation officers are sworn law enforcement with statewide jurisdiction. Their primary mission is to ensure compliance with hunting and fishing laws and to ensure that the state's waterways are a safe place for all to enjoy by using a two-pronged approach of education and enforcement. The department seeks prospective conservation officers who reflect the diversity of all the citizens of the Commonwealth, especially those who enjoy hunting, fishing, and recreational boating in Kentucky. 11 new conservation officers were sworn in the state capitol on February the 10th. Among those officers sworn in were one female officer and an officer, Darren Jacoby, who retired from civilian medical practice in 2019, but maintains his medical credentials as a doctor in the Kentucky Air National Guard. Jacoby was featured in a recent story published in Kentucky Law Enforcement magazine. Members of the previous recruit class were sworn in March of 2020. That class included 3 female officers and 1 African-American officer. Positions are available in 12 counties: Bath, Boyd, Christian, Clinton, Graves, Hopkins, Livingston, Madison, Russell, Todd, Wayne, and Webster. Interested applicants must be 21 years old, possess a valid driver's license, and submit a complete online application for each county of interest. Preferred candidates will have Peace Officer Professional Standards certification. The deadline to apply is 7 p.m. on March 5th, and you can visit the personnel.ky.gov for more information. Thank you.
All right, and thank you to Chief of Staff Latasha Buckner for giving us the good news today. As a Chief of Staff, you oftentimes have to deliver bad news to people. But Latasha's incredible competence is such a benefit to the Commonwealth, and I don't think there's a harder worker in Frankfurt, other than maybe Virginia. Today's COVID report, a little of what we've been seeing lately. Cases are just a little elevated, but 2 days into this week, we're about where we were last week. So we're reporting 1,497 new cases of COVID-19. Our hospitalization, ICU, and ventilator numbers are generally stable. We're up 20 that are hospitalized. We're down 1 in the ICU, and we're up 2 on ventilators. The best piece of news today is we are down to a positivity rate of 6.30%, the lowest that we've had since November the 4th. That's good because the positivity rate is a leading instead of a lagging indicator. We do have 16 deaths today, and while it's not the 30, 40, or 50 we've seen in other weeks, it's still too many. It includes a 51-year-old man from Hopkins, a number of Jefferson County residents, 4 women ages 70, 80, 80, and 92, and then men ages 67, 78, and 86. 80-year-old man from McCracken, 60-year-old woman from Muhlenberg, 89-year-old man from Ohio, 33-year-old woman from Shelby, 68-year-old man from Spencer, 72-year-old man from Warren, and 2 women from Whitley County, ages 53 and 56. If there's something positive in these numbers, it's that we only believe 4 were in long-term care, which again means as a percentage of those who pass away, there's a smaller and smaller and smaller part that's long-term care that at one point was almost 2/3. It means vaccinations work. We're already seeing it. We see it in these numbers. It's a really positive sign. Like I said, that 1,400 is certainly a lot higher than the 530 yesterday, but this time last week we had 1,255, which sure is less than a couple hundred. It's a couple hundred less than this week, but yesterday was a couple hundred less than Monday the week before. So I still think we're generally moving in the right direction. Long-term care, 8 new residents, 15 new staff testing positive, 3 new deaths attributable in long-term care, no new facilities with new positive cases. Let's look at vaccines. First, a lot of exciting news in vaccines. The Biden administration is announcing today another increase in our weekly amounts of vaccines. It's going to be, I think, a million more nationwide, which will mean 10,000 North additional doses per week here in Kentucky. They guarantee that for at least 3 weeks. Additionally, there is a nominal increase. I think it's 100,000 nationwide, so about 1,000 plus here in Kentucky for the federal pharmacy program. Now, when we let's look at table 2 to start. I want to show you what last week and the delay in getting vaccines means for us this week. So last week, because of the weather, we only received about 6,800 doses when we were supposed to get up to about 71,000. So this week, we are receiving a whopping 152,710 doses. That is more than we are going to get until, at the very least, Johnson & Johnson is authorized. We may get that amount in 1 week and then a little less until it ramps up. That's other news today in that we believe that Johnson & Johnson will be able to ship out 2 million total doses when it's authorized. Now, that's a 1-dose vaccine, so that's 2 million Americans that get vaccinated. If we get our portion of those, we'll have north of 20,000 people just from that round, again, that we can vaccinate with just that single dose. Remember, the vaccine you should take is the one you can get. They are all highly effective. They will all work very well to prevent serious disease and death. They all help us to get to herd immunity. They are all good. Whichever one you can get, you absolutely should get it. So as you look again at this chart, beginning January 5th, we have significantly outpaced the supply that we have been provided. This week, that's going to be a big challenge. So I have no doubt that I think that we will set a record for number of individuals vaccinated in the state. This will be a week where we might not reach 100% given what we have, but it's a very good test in where we need to get, where we'll eventually have 200,000 plus doses in any given week, and it'll really test our system on where we are right now. One challenge in this is because of the delayed shipments. Sometimes there's only been a day notice for providers and for us about when it's going to arrive. Again, we'd love to have better information than that, and I know we will in the future, but it is a good test, knowing that we have time to get it out, knowing that we can get it out, but truly kind of testing that system in some of the toughest of ways. Before this week's shipment, we had provided 98.5% of all vaccine first doses that we received and put them into people's arms. Again, we evaluate ourselves right now on the speed of first doses. CDC is changing some of the metrics they have on their on their site. What they did previously is put first and second dose together and then look at speed. We think that second dose is designated for a specific person. We're going to get it to that specific person, which is going to take us potentially a little more time. If you do rankings based on that, it may impact us there, but we're going to get to immunity, I believe, faster in making sure that we get that full effective amount in folks' arms. Let's look at the table one. What it shows is we are that close to having that ended up taking off the total on that we still wanted. We are 594,380 Kentuckians that have received at least their first dose of a vaccine, so getting pretty close to 600,000. Exciting what this week may bring. It means that there may be a lot more people called on different waiting lists. And yesterday's announcement that we will move into 1C while still focusing very much on age and making sure those 70 and older have priority being in 1B if they haven't gotten in yet. Nobody's forgetting about you. But as we move into 1C, a lot of excitement I know out there about people that have been waiting real patiently that really need this vaccine. Remember, there's a lot of people in 1C. And so it's going to feel like it's really hard to get an appointment in the beginning. But our supply keeps increasing. We will get to you. Hang in there. We're talking at most a matter of months, and we hope earlier than that before you will be able to sign up and get that shot. But until then, and even after, you got to wear your mask, keep social distancing. We want cases to continue to go down while vaccines continue to go up. All right, one of our major topics that we're discussing today is our schools, and the Lieutenant Governor will come up here as an educator and fix all the mistakes that I make. Today we have what I think is exciting news for our schools, educators, parents, and children. As you know, last year we set forth public health measures concerning elementary, middle, and high schools that were necessary to slow the spread of COVID-19 while ensuring that Kentucky students still received meaningful education. We then made the decision that we would prioritize our educators, that we would move them up at that time to a higher priority group than any other state. And at the moment, we are on pace to be the fastest state to vaccinate our educators anywhere in the country, and I don't think it will be close. I think what we foresaw is that the safest way to expand in-person opportunities or to provide them maybe for the first time in a district, the safest thing that we could do is vaccinate all of our school personnel. Since then, the CDC and others have moved that way, and other states are following our lead, elevating teachers up. So today I'm issuing a new executive order that recognizes that we have that we are in the process of getting all our educators vaccinated and what that means. Today's executive order recommends, because this is still a local decision, school boards are elected all over the Commonwealth, and it's important that it's a local decision. So we're recommending to all school districts, including private schools, to offer or expand some form of in-person instructional opportunities beginning at either March 1st or, if it is later, 7 days after the educators have received their second dose of the vaccine. In other words, if this is based on everybody getting the vaccine, we have to make sure they've gotten that second dose and have at least 7 days. Now, there are some school districts that are opting for 14 days after that second dose, and that's based on certainly some science that's out there, and that is entirely understandable and certainly defensible. If school district personnel have not finished their first vaccine series as of March 1st, again, it pushes that date out just on our recommendation. Now, I believe all but about 6 districts, if I have my numbers right, across Kentucky already have some form of in-person instruction. We hope that this gives either the opportunity to look at where that is and potentially expand it, or to feel safer within it, or to offer it for the first time. So it's 6 school districts. 165 of 171 have resumed some form of in-person instruction. Of the 165 districts that have done so, at least 38 have all students in person 4 or 5 days a week. 103 have a hybrid schedule, and 17 have elementary students in person 4 or 5 days a week, and then a hybrid for middle school and high school. Now, while this is exciting news, remember, there is or can be real concern on behalf of those that walk into a building where there's going to be a lot of people. So the executive order sets out some requirements, but also asks for districts to consider a number of different things that need to be considered to have the safe environment that all of our educators and all of our students deserve. So first, it requires that students, educators, and staff wear face coverings while indoors, on school grounds, or in school transportations. And we go through auditoriums and everything else. This is universal masking all the time, virtually no exceptions. This is one of the number one ways that we can keep everybody in that school safe. And it's going to be incredibly important, especially for districts that may go back for the first time, that this is strictly enforced, as all of the studies that suggest there is low transmission are of districts that had and enforced a strong mask mandate. Additionally, I want to recognize the challenges that some districts face and the considerations that they can and should make, and that all can and should consider when looking at this. First is especially where you can't achieve distance. And while 6 feet isn't always set out, it is a good rule to try to achieve. Where that can't be done, you need to look at reducing density in classrooms, halls, school buses, and other areas where there is a heightened risk. Implementing cohorts or pods of students. In other words, you shouldn't be switching classes during the day with a lot of others, going out into the hall and coming back in, having lunch with people outside of your class. That's because if somebody has it, you can almost put a bubble around who might have to quarantine. Evaluating buildings, ventilation systems, and considering safety procedures and or density reductions in facilities with poor ventilation. Every district must continue to provide that meaningful virtual option for any student that wants it. And it cannot discriminate against them in terms of courses that they can take, and it cannot negatively impact their student achievement. In addition, this order means that the color-coded chart with regards to school decisions will be discontinued as of March the 1st, but we're going to continue to post it to show where community spread is high. That should impact decisions made by a community and by a school in terms of extracurriculars or those additional things that might bring in that community spread from the community itself. More information on safety expectations and best practices can be found at the Healthy at School website, and that flagship document is mandatory and all of its practices in there. Now, I know that this is a bigger challenge on some school districts other than others. I went to the second largest school district here in Kentucky. I loved my high school, but it was a building where we packed 2,000 students in with the tiniest windows I think I've ever seen in a building. And other than a nice entrance, it looks the same inside. That is a building that they're going to have to really consider how to reduce density. 5 day a week, every student, you couldn't achieve what you need to achieve there. And so we need to be understanding that while we are encouraging and we believe that we can have a safe resumption of in-person learning, in our larger school districts, it is a challenge that requires what is already happening, a lot of communication. I know there are committees, even in specific schools, where our educators and administration are having a good dialogue. And it requires making tough decisions about how to get to the point where you're not only safer because you've been vaccinated, but you've put the right steps into place. But I believe with what we now know, with good practices in making these tough decisions, which may be coming back as a hybrid and not everybody 5 days a week, that specific plans can be achieved where everybody can ultimately feel as comfortable as we can in the midst of COVID. But at the end of the day, we didn't vaccinate our educators for nothing. We did this because we all know that we need some form of in-person learning. It's got to be safe. That's got to include a lot of people in putting together what it'll look like. But we believe that post-second dose, we are moving and must move in that direction. And now the educator that will correct, again, everything that I missed, our Lieutenant Governor, Jacqueline Coleman.
Thank you, Governor. I brought my red pen, but I don't think I need it yet, so good job. Yeah. So as the governor said, getting our kids back into in-person learning safely has remained a top priority of our administration for the last year. And since the beginning of the pandemic, we have worked with the Department of Education to provide clear and up-to-date guidance that schools and districts can use to navigate these unprecedented challenges that none of us have ever gone through before. From day one, our top priority has been to keep students and teachers and school staff and all of their families in our community safe. As the pandemic continues to evolve, necessary changes to teaching, learning, and operational guidance must evolve with it. Kentucky continues to be the national leader in vaccinating our school personnel. So as we prepare for a return to in-person learning in all schools, the Department of Education has issued new guidance to help schools and districts develop their plans for a safe return to school buildings and to classrooms. Yesterday, the department issued a comprehensive 136-page manual that combines every piece of guidance to schools and districts that has been issued since nearly a year ago. This document, called KDE COVID-19 Guidance 2.0, presents the most up-to-date guidance for teaching, learning, and operating schools and districts during the pandemic. I'm here today to hit some of those highlights. So first of all, we have school-related student travel. This section details the factors that need to be taken into consideration when planning any school-related student travel, with the exception of athletics, because the Kentucky High School Athletic Association has already issued guidance on travel for sports. Administering spring state testing. As always, there is a lot of conversation around state assessments, so let me say unequivocally that it is more important than ever for us to prioritize teaching and caring for the whole child. KDE is still preparing for an in-person administration of state assessments, as the U.S. Department of Education has not currently granted waivers on statewide testing for public school students. They will continue to provide up-to-date information on assessments as they know more. And let me say that I am proud to work alongside KDE to support Kentucky schools and their request for flexibility in state testing so that our teachers can focus on cultivating personalized learning environments that put our kids first. Operating schools after teachers and staff are fully vaccinated. So you can imagine that this guidance is going to look a little different, as the governor said, because as we return, our entire school personnel is going to be fully vaccinated. So our Department of Public Health has updated their guidance in regards to quarantining procedures for fully vaccinated staff. And this is based on continued updated guidance from the CDC. Assessing knowledge gaps because of the impact on learning from the pandemic. This is a big one. This is the work that schools do. This gives our teachers and our staff a blueprint of how to assess knowledge gaps, how to design instruction to address those gaps, and it also provides resources to support this critical work. Allowable uses of the second round of elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding. This guidance aims to help school leaders allocate this federal emergency money for schools and districts. I joined today with all of the superintendents across the state, and I got to hear about all of the plans they have for innovative initiatives that our educators are preparing for their students. I have to say that I continue to be impressed by the way that our education community is going above and beyond to meet our students where they are and to serve them. So again, all of the information that I have covered today is a highlight of a much larger document that you can find on the Department of Education's website. And this document has also been distributed out to our public schools. We know that our students want and need to be back in school, but I can also assure you that their teachers feel the same way. They want to lay eyes on those kids. They want to care for them. They want to build relationships with them, and they want to help them grow, both academically and personally, because that's why they became a teacher. So with this guidance, our main hope here is to make sure that the transition back to in-person learning is as safe and smooth as it can possibly be for everyone from the top of the school district to our smallest learners. Governor?
All right, we will open it up to questions. We've got myself, the Lieutenant Governor, and Dr. Stack available. We can beam him in for questions. We'll start with Catherine Collins from WLEX. I think we'll start with Catherine Collins from WLEX. It's always the moment where we wonder if the technology will work. Let's try Corinne Boyer from WEKU.
Hi, Governor. For people who want vaccines, but who either can't leave their homes or don't have any access to transportation, how will they get vaccinated? Are there any efforts around getting people vaccinated in their homes or any plans to help them get to vaccination sites?
So there's a couple of different things. Number one, there is transportation help. I think we announced some of those options last week. Bluegrass Community Action Council. I think the Lieutenant Governor brought that up. Let's see if we can get the slide. The other is we are working on mobile units to reach those individuals, maybe even in their homes themselves. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is going to make that certainly more possible because you only have to reach them once with a single dose vaccine. So it is active planning for that homebound population, but there is transportation help that is out there. And I believe the link to that, well, it's right here. That one is offering help in the Bluegrass region, and we are working out options in other regions as well. That was okay. Karen Czar from WKY.
Hi, Governor. Thank you so much. Governor, if God forbid the numbers were to go in the wrong direction, do you anticipate still moving forward with these school plans, especially because of the vaccinations? And then I do have a quick unemployment question. We have a listener who can't get an appointment because her husband has an appointment. So when she tries to get registered, it says you already have an appointment and they won't let them do one at the same time. How can we get her through? Thank you.
Yeah, let me get you the answer on that. That sounds like it's another issue with our IT system, which has been the major challenge by far. We talk about how old it is. It is pre-DOS. DOS is advanced for that system. We're down to about 2 to 3 people that even know how to code it that are left. But we'll get that specifically. She shouldn't not be able to get an appointment because her spouse has one. If the numbers do go up, given that all of our educators will be vaccinated, yes, we believe we can move forward with the plans. Now, what it'll be reflected in is community spread. That should, though, make administrators think about extracurriculars, think about all the activities that can be lessened, so we can specifically focus on that in-person instruction that's got to come first over virtually everything else. I do believe that this is the right time, though most districts, again, have already been doing it, but with cases going down and vaccinations going up, to move forward. Our thoughts, if we saw significant community spread, would center more around the kids and who they may bring it home to. That would be our concern at that point, because all these vaccines are incredibly effective at preventing serious illness or death in those that have been vaccinated. Chad Hedrick from WKYT.
Hi, Governor. Yesterday, you talked a little bit hinting at announcing maybe lifting some restrictions if we saw the case numbers continue to go down. What further data are you wanting to see before making some of these decisions, and what could we potentially see in the coming weeks with this?
So what we're looking at is that last week wasn't an aberration, that it wasn't just caused by a decrease in testing because of the weather, that we are still experiencing this downward trend. Our numbers right now are still where they were in the summer when we were very worried. They're just thankfully way down from the peak that we hit, in the fall and early January. So what we would be looking at is an increase in capacity in different places, and we're looking at what that would be. I'm sure it won't be enough for those out there, but hopefully it'll be helpful, and it'll be a show that we are moving in the right direction. But we're going to have some capacity restrictions, some restrictions. We hope we can loosen them, but some restrictions until we get to a level of vaccination that is going to make it safe. But that doesn't mean that we can't let air out of the balloon slowly as we get there and provide more and more relief to the small businesses that have had to make the greatest sacrifices in this pandemic. Melissa Patrick from Kentucky Health News.
I have 2 questions. Just feeding off of that last one, will you consider lifting some restrictions on the number of people who can gather socially in each other's homes? Is that something that you'll also consider? And then my big question is, so a Johns Hopkins article says the best way to get people signed up for vaccines is through a one-stop pre-registration system. And basically people sign up and then they're informed when they're allowed to get the vaccine, and also they can check a system to see when they're in line. West Virginia uses the system. So I think I remember you saying that Kentucky was working on a centralized sign-up system. Are we still doing that? And can you give us an update?
What we've been working on and what we have now is a system that tells you when you're eligible and where your regional site is and or the pharmacies around you. That's up right now. Our challenge is an IT system that can do that could handle the millions of hits on it every single day. And we have seen what happens in many areas, including unemployment, when you don't have the sophistication there. We have leaned in testing on partners like Kroger that has on-time delivery of fresh produce and thousands of stores across a wide region that we know can not only handle that, but can even reprogram when we want to reprioritize different things. So the IT part is the most challenging piece, and we still believe that partnerships with private partners with sophisticated systems gives us an extra level of protection of not crashing and of people's personal information. If they're, well, I understand what West Virginia has generally done right now. We believe our method is getting people in, is getting them through fast, but it does bring up an important point in that people are signing up right now, and I get it, at as many locations as they can to try to get that appointment. And I fully understand that. One system would certainly prevent some of that. All we ask is for those people, when you get your appointment, please cancel the other ones that you put in for. So we're having 5 to 10% no-shows and appointments on any given day, and we believe that's one of the major reasons. Our build-out continues to move where we've got to be almost everywhere at every time, and then we've got to tie in these federal programs as well. Tom Latek from Kentucky Today.
Good afternoon, Governor, and good afternoon to the award-winning Virginia as well. I get a lot of comments, a lot of emails and contacts from bar and restaurant owners, and the two big questions that they have are, as you look to relax the capacity limitations, are you also looking at expanding their hours so they can be open later? And also, right now they have to be served at their tables and they can't move. Will you be going to a spot where they can line up with the proper distancing to order?
Well, I mean, the challenge in restaurants and bars is if we don't have a seated rule, we know what happens. I mean, that's why people go to many of those places. And so they still remain areas where we see some of the most significant potential for the spread of the virus. And that's no fault of theirs. That's just how the virus works and spread. So we'll be looking at increasing capacity first before we are likely to make changes in hours or the seat rule. The seat rule would probably be the last one that we would let up on. But just because we take one step first doesn't mean we won't take other steps if we're moving in the right direction. So it's hard to tell an industry that has had to sacrifice so much to hang with us, but we are looking at easing the capacity restriction first and then looking from there. Again, we go too fast and we get this wrong. We see cases shoot back up and we cause more long-term impact and damage to our overall economy than doing it right and doing it in responsible steps. Sarah Ladd from the Courier-Journal.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. Regarding the school announcement, do you recommend districts putting a cap on the number of kids allowed back in for in-person classes to help with those density and distancing issues? Thanks.
I think this is something you have to look at on a building by building basis. And I think first you look at the number of students who are going to opt to remain virtual entirely. And in some districts out there, that may do it. You may be down to 50%. And if you look at your rooms, that might accommodate, or if you look at your transportation, that might accommodate. But after you remove those students again that are going to stay virtual, then you have to look at what you have remaining and how you're going to divide them up. And a couple educators today made a really good point to me that if you have students that are virtual, you have teachers that are going to teach those students virtual. So you can't take the remaining students that are coming in person and put them all in one room and simply have an empty room between them. You got to figure out how to spread them out. It doesn't make sense if you have typically a classroom with 30 and you're able density wise on any given day to get it down to where there could be a 15 average, but you put 30 in one classroom still because of how you're setting up that teaching model. That can't work, right? We can't hurt the efforts that we're trying to take, and you can't be cute around COVID. It still spreads the same way. So certainly for and the Louisville Courier-Journal, it's JCPS. It's going to take a very specific plan that I believe everybody is working on, and ensuring that once you've reduced that density, you look at the building, you get the students spread out. So maybe there's not 6 feet, but there needs to be some real distance between them. You can manage the cohorting. That can be done. I truly believe it can be done. It may mean the model looks very different than other places. It may mean that students aren't in 5 days, but right now, having a meaningful chance for students to be in part or all of a certain number of days a week, I know would be something that would benefit them and benefit our educators. Again, if done in a safe manner. And our educators should have a major voice in coming up with that plan. And I know they are. And I still believe that this can all be worked through to a safe in-person option. And a lot of work's being put into it by a lot of people who are raising a lot of important issues. All right, 1C, essential workers. Do they need to show proof of employment to get their vaccine? When they sign up, they have to indicate which category that they fall in. But right now, no proof of that is necessary. If we find people are cheating, then we're going to have to go to something like that. So please, this is humanity versus the coronavirus. If you don't fall in one of those categories, please don't try to jump the line when we got folks out there that need these vaccines. And also understand that it's a very large category, but we also are going to see increased amount of vaccines coming to us. Spectrum, long-term care facilities have seen visitations relax, but families of inmates still not able to see folks. When can this change? When we are able to get at least a portion of those facilities vaccinated. We are still working on those plans, and as we've seen, the spread in prisons can happen really quickly. So we want to make sure that we are careful. There's a comment here that we're told families are limited to 15-minute virtual calls once a month. When can this change? I want to check on that. With the visitation limitations that we have, I certainly feel personally that people should have more options to talk to their family than that. When we originally restricted visitation in our prisons, that was one of the things that we pledged to do. So I will personally ask about that. All right, folks, we made it through a Tuesday. Again, a lot of news, and the news, and we're going to have more news moving forward as we can vaccinate more and more people. Remember, it's going to take patience, but everybody is going to have a place in line to get their shot of hope. When you can get it, get it. Take any of the vaccines that are out there. They're all highly effective. One, you won't have to come back for the extra booster. And remember that we're in this together until we reach herd immunity. Otherwise, our actions can still endanger those around us. So continue to wear your mask, continue to do the right things. We'll continue to move forward. And I'm more optimistic than ever that we are going to defeat this virus this year, and we have a bright future in front of us. We'll see you on Thursday. Thank you.